In 1998, an 11-year-old boy in Rosario, Argentina, is told his body has stopped growing. The treatment costs $900 a month. His family can barely make rent. No club in the country will cover it. The untold story of how Lionel Messi rose from a working-class street corner to a billion-dollar legacy didn't begin with talent. It began with a diagnosis that should have ended everything. Rosario, Argentina. In the late 1980s, the city's Las Heras neighborhood was a place of steel and sweat, where the hum of factories mixed with the shouts of children playing football in the streets. Lionel Messi was born here on June 24, 1987, the third child of Jorge Messi and Celia Cuccittini. Jorge spent long days as a foreman at a steel plant, while Celia cleaned houses to help keep the family afloat. Their home was small, 2 rooms, siblings sharing beds, every corner filled with signs of a family making do. Football wasn't an escape so much as a constant. The street outside doubled as a pitch, with old shoes for goal posts and a battered ball that never seemed to leave Leo's feet. His older brothers, Rodrigo and Matias, joined neighborhood games that blurred the line between joy and competition. The family's income covered basics, but there was never extra. Even so, Jorge found ways to register Leo with Abanderato Grandoli, the local club, and later with Newell's Old Boys, where the fees were manageable only because the club sometimes helped out with gear. In these early years, the dream was already under pressure, not because of a diagnosis or a contract, but because every step forward required sacrifice. Every hour on the pitch, every peso spent, every night in a cramped bedroom. For the Messis, greatness didn't begin with glory. It began here, in the narrow streets and shared spaces of Rosario, where football was stitched into daily life and hope had to be earned. At 11 years old, Lionel Messi sat in a doctor's office in Rosario and heard words that would change the shape of his life. The diagnosis was clear: growth hormone deficiency. Without daily injections, the boy whose feet danced across every pitch would stand barely 4.5 feet tall. The treatment plan was relentless, night after night, a needle pressed into his legs, a ritual that stretched on for years. Messi later described it simply: every night I had to stick a needle into my legs, night after night, for 3 years. But the real wound came with the bill. The cost hovered around $900 each month, more than the family's budget could ever stretch. Jorge and Celia watched the numbers pile up, their son's future measured in vials and receipts. Insurance covered only a fraction. The rest was impossible. Newell's Old Boys, the club that had nurtured Messi's early promise, could offer encouragement, but not the money that might buy him time to grow. No local sponsor stepped in. No miracle appeared. The dream was now a matter of survival. Every evening, as the injections continued, the question grew heavier. How long could the family hold on? Without outside help, the path forward was closing fast. Messi's talent had never been in doubt, but now his body, and the cost of saving it, stood in the way. Enrique Dominguez, a youth coach in Rosario, watched Messi play and saw something he had never seen before: a boy who seemed to know the game by instinct. Dominguez reached out across the ocean, sending word and tape to Barcelona. The club's technical director, Carlos Rexach, took notice. In September 2000, Messi and his father landed in Spain for a trial. The stakes were clear: show enough in a few days to convince one of the world's biggest clubs to take on not just a player, but a medical risk no one in Argentina would touch. On the pitch, Messi's size faded into the background. His vision, balance, and touch stunned the coaches. Rexach saw a future in the boy's left foot, but the club hesitated. There were doubts about Messi's health, his age, and the cost of his treatment. Days passed, and the Messi family prepared to return home, hope slipping away. Then, in a corner of the Pompeia Tennis Club, Rexach reached for the nearest paper, a napkin. He wrote in blue ink, a promise. Barcelona would sign Lionel Messi regardless of the risks. as long as the agreed terms were met. Rexach, agent Horacio Gaggioli, and advisor Josep Maria Minguella all signed. The napkin bound Barcelona to a child, not just for his talent, but for his fight. It was more than a contract, it was a leap of faith. The club agreed to cover $900 a month for hormone therapy, a commitment no one else had made. In that moment, Messi's path reopened. The world would remember the napkin, but for the family, it was the first real sign that someone believed enough to bet everything on a boy from Rosario. At 13, Lionel Messi boarded a plane for Barcelona, clutching a suitcase and the hope of a family that had given all it could. His father Jorge traveled with him at first, both strangers in a land where the language sounded foreign and the city lights felt colder than home. The promise of Barcelona's help came with a cost no contract could measure: distance from his mother Celia, from siblings, from the only streets he knew. When Jorge returned to Rosario, the separation became real. Messi was left to grow up in the dormitories of La Masia, surrounded by other boys chasing the same impossible dream, but few as far from home. Loneliness settled in during those first months. Each night, Messi dialed Rosario, his voice quiet on the line, searching for comfort in his mother's words. The routine became survival: early morning training, schoolwork in a language that still twisted his tongue, evenings spent repeating drills until the light faded. Coaches noticed his discipline, the way he would run a passing exercise again and again after a single mistake, refusing to leave until every detail was right. Teammates like Cesc Fabregas later remembered the small Argentine who spoke little, but let his feet answer every question on the pitch. La Masia was a proving ground, not a sanctuary. Messi's body was still catching up, the hormone therapy continuing under the club's watch. He faced the daily challenge of adapting to new tactics, new expectations, and the quiet ache of missing home. What looked from the outside like a golden opportunity was, for Messi, a daily test of endurance. Each day survived in Barcelona was another day earned, not given, a private struggle that would shape the resilience needed for the storms ahead. The world expected Lionel Messi to deliver Argentina a trophy. Each time he pulled on the blue and white shirt, the weight pressed down a little harder. In July 2014, the Maracana Stadium filled with hope and dread as Argentina faced Germany in the World Cup final. Messi ran, created, and nearly scored, but in the 113th minute, Mario Götze broke through. Argentina's dream collapsed. The final whistle left Messi staring into the grass, a nation's heartbreak on his shoulders. FIFA handed him the golden ball as the tournament's best player. He accepted it with empty eyes, the prize feeling hollow in the shadow of defeat. Headlines back home questioned his heart, his loyalty, even his place among Argentina's greats. 2 years later, the pressure reached a breaking point. In June 2016, the Copa America Centenario final against Chile ended in another penalty shootout. Messi stepped up and missed. Argentina lost again. In the locker room, surrounded by teammates too stunned to speak, Messi told the world he was done. "The national team is over for me." The news stunned Argentina. Fans begged him to reconsider. Teammates called, coaches pleaded. 3 weeks later, Messi reversed his decision, driven by the love for his country and the unfinished story. He would return, battered but unbroken, refusing to let heartbreak decide his ending. 35 years old. That was the age on Lionel Messi's passport as he stepped onto the field at Lusail Iconic Stadium, December 18th, 2022. In a final that felt less like a match and more like a test of spirit, Argentina and France traded blows for 120 minutes. Messi struck first from the penalty spot. France answered. Di Maria put Argentina ahead again, only for Mbappe to pull France level in the dying minutes. By the end, it was 3 goals each. No separation, no certainty, just the weight of a nation pressing down on Messi's shoulders one last time. The shootout began. Messi, calm as ever, converted his penalty. Teammates followed. Emiliano Martinez made the save. Then Gonzalo Montiel scored the kick that ended decades of waiting. Argentina were world champions. Messi, at 35, lifted the trophy he had chased since childhood. The stadium roared, but for Messi, the noise faded. Years of heartbreak, doubt, and sacrifice collapsed into a single moment of release. In that instant, the world measured his value not in trophies or contracts, but in the billion hearts he moved. The $1 billion phrase became shorthand for something bigger, a global reach, a story carried from Rosario streets to every corner of the planet. Greatness, it turned out, was less about talent than about refusing to let the world decide when you're finished. For Messi, persistence was the final answer. Greatness isn't given, it's fought for, day after day, when no one believes you belong. That's what Messi proves now, as millions of kids still hear they're too small, too poor, too broken. His legacy is simple. The world's doubts are loud, but your refusal can be louder. Share your thoughts below.